There is a moment, a quiet one that repeats in the dead of night or the stillness of an early morning when you find yourself checking your phone. The screen is dark. The last message you sent, a simple, "How are you?" or "Thinking of you," sits there with two blue ticks and no reply. And you feel it, a familiar hollow ache in your chest. It is the feeling of being forgotten by the very people you would have given everything for. This is not a story about ungrateful children. It is a story about a forgotten parent. And according to the work of Carl Jung, this ache, this reflex to check and recheck, is not a sign of how much you love them. It is a symptom of a life you have not yet lived. When you beg for attention, for a crumb of affection from your own children, you are not just losing your peace, you are losing yourself. This is not about bitterness or cutting ties. It is about the profound psychological work of individuation, the process of becoming a complete, whole person who no longer needs a child to play a role they were never meant to play. Tonight, we close that gap. We will walk through 9 psychological shifts, grounded deeply in Jungian thought, that dissolve the need to beg. This is a journey of internal sovereignty. You will learn why this constant pleading is an incomplete psychic circuit, always drawing energy outward. You will receive a 3-layer mental protocol you can run at 2 in the morning instead of rereading old texts. And you will discover how a single, quiet boundary can restore your dignity without starting a family war. Rule 1 is to name the unlived life. The core tension in many parent-adult-child relationships is not a failure of communication, but a failure of self-realization on the parent's part. Your child is not ignoring you, not the real you. They are often dodging a ghost, an invoice for a life you postponed. Jung wrote, and this is critical, that nothing has a stronger psychic effect on a child than the life the parent has not lived. Every unfulfilled dream, every suppressed passion, every quality you buried in yourself, perhaps the desire for travel, for a career shift, for genuine intimacy, you unconsciously project onto them. This projection operates like a psychic weight. You hoped they would be the adventurous one, the successful one, the happy one, because you felt you could not be those things yourself. You have made them the repository of your potential. This mechanism, projection, is the silent, invisible burden we place on our children without ever saying a word. They feel the weight of this expectation, this invisible script you have written for them to complete your story. And the reaction to that weight is often distance, a retreat into their own lives to find space to breathe. They are not rejecting you. They are rejecting the role you assigned them. To diagnose your own unlived life, try this deep dive exercise. Take 30 seconds and list 3 adjectives you secretly hoped your child would use to describe you: respected, admired, cherished, successful, or perhaps adventurous. Now, look at those words. Those words are not about your child's obligations. They are a mirror reflecting the qualities you need to cultivate in your own life right now, independent of your children's perception. Your task is to reclaim those adjectives and live them fully. Only then does the projection dissolve. But simply naming the ghost does not evict it. For that, you need Rule 2, which is to write the grief invoice. Parental sacrifice is often lauded as the highest virtue, but Jung reveals the shadow side. Unpaid sacrifice does not vanish. It becomes a psychic debt collector. It festers and turns into a quiet, often invisible resentment that poisons the space between you and your child. You feel owed, not because they are bad, but because you gave up too much of yourself. What if the real invoice is not for your child, but from you, to you, dated from the day you stopped dreaming for yourself? This rule requires a ritual of closure to acknowledge the lost potential and forgive the self. Here is the protocol. Take a piece of paper and fold it into 3 columns. In the first column, write the expectation. Be specific, that my child will call me every Sunday without prompting, that they will listen to my advice about their career. In the second, write who you feel owes that debt. It will likely be the child, but sometimes it is society or even your spouse. And in the third, write the emotional interest rate, the percentage of your daily peace that you have invested in that single outcome. When you are finished, look at the total cost. This total reveals the price you pay for demanding a return on your past sacrifices. Then, tear off the bottom of that paper and burn it safely or shred it completely. This is not a literal invoice to send. It is a ritual of closure. The physical act of destroying that ledger signals powerfully to your subconscious that the debt is forgiven. The account is closed. This act initiates a neurological shift, releasing a microdose of dopamine, a chemical signal of completion and release. Once that ledger is ash, you are faced with a fundamental, terrifying question. Who are you if you are no longer the self-sacrificing parent? This leads us to Rule 3, which is to detach from the parent-savior archetype. Your child never asked for a superhero. They needed a grounded, whole human being. The archetype of the parent as nurturer is essential, but when carried too far, especially into the adult phase of the child's life, it becomes what Jung termed inflation. Inflation is the psychological state where the ego over-identifies with a powerful role. You believe you are solely responsible for their happiness, their success, their very being. You confuse your identity with your function. And when that inflated identity inevitably collapses, when the child asserts independence or fails to acknowledge your central role, it collapses into begging. You traded yourself for the role, and now the role is obsolete. The psychological antidote here is a one-sentence mantra to rewire this archetype deeply into your nervous system. Repeat this to yourself while brushing your teeth, making coffee, or sitting in traffic. I was the auxiliary ego, not the entire operating system. This contextual anchoring helps your nervous system internalize a new truth. You are a person with your own operating system, not just a function designed to support theirs. Your task is to reboot your own system. Letting go of the superhero's cape frees your hands to build something necessary, a fence. This is Rule 4, where we understand that a boundary is simply love, translated into adult grammar. If your sentences to your child always trail off into an ellipsis, if you are constantly biting your tongue for fear of driving them away, then you are already speaking in boundary conditional. You are afraid that if you finish the sentence, you will be alone. The fear is a cyclical loop. You think boundary leads to guilt, which leads to permanent abandonment. But a boundary is not a wall designed to keep love out. It is the gate around your own soul. It protects the space where your love can exist without being trampled or diminished by their demands or dismissals. A boundary is the physical manifestation of self-respect. Here are 3 templates to embody this rule, moving from simple logistics to complex emotional management. The first is for delayed responses, asserting control over your time. I've seen your message. I'll respond when I have the capacity for a thoughtful reply, likely tomorrow evening. The second is for emotional drama or guilt tripping. I love you, and because of that, I won't fund this argument with my silence. Let's revisit this conversation when we are both calm, perhaps on Saturday afternoon. And for the third, dealing with financial or excessive requests. I value our relationship, and I need to prioritize my own financial security right now. I can't meet that request, but I can offer to help you research alternatives. Every effective boundary has a 3-part anatomy: a warm greeting to establish connection, a simple statement of fact regarding your capacity, and a clear, calm consequence or alternative. This is not rejection. It is an act of maturity that defines the parameters of the relationship. Boundaries protect you from the outside world. But what about the turmoil within? The internal pressure that drives the begging reflex? Rule 5 instructs you to turn the camera inward and meet the inner orphan. The part of you that is desperately begging your adult child for a scrap of attention is, in truth, your own younger self, perhaps 7 or 8 years old, holding an empty lunchbox, hoping someone will finally fill it with unconditional validation. This is core shadow work. What you refuse to acknowledge, nurture, and mother inside yourself, you will inevitably demand from the outside world. You are asking your 30 or 50-year-old son or daughter to soothe the neglected child still living inside of you. It is an impossible task for them, as they have their own inner children to manage, and it is an exhausting, soul-crushing task for you. The payoff is a guided writing exercise that establishes a dialogue with this inner orphan. Set a timer for 3 minutes and write a letter that begins, "Dear inner orphan, today I can give you." And then you fill in the blank with a commitment of internal care. Today, I can give you 15 minutes of quiet reading, just for pleasure. Or, today I can give you a walk in the park, just us, without the pressure of a phone or task. This practice of self-reparenting is crucial. Neuroscientific evidence shows that this consistent, positive internal dialogue actually lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, stabilizing your emotional baseline. You are not just writing words. You are becoming your own most reliable source of security. When you do this consistently, you begin to build what Rule 6 calls an inner pension fund. Your retirement from active daily parenting is not a retirement from meaning. It is a strategic transfer of your emotional portfolio from a single, high-risk stock, your child's response, to a diversified, stable investment in your own being. Many parents face an existential cliff because their entire identity was wrapped in the caregiver role. When the children leave, they feel they are nothing. To build this fund, institute a robust 3-question self-check every single morning. This shifts your focus from external monitoring to internal wealth creation. First, what experience will I gift myself today? No matter how small, this could be a new hobby, a book, or a specific flavor of coffee. Second, with whom will I connect today without the pressure of caretaking? Focus on peers, friends, or community members where the relationship is reciprocal. And third, what tiny, almost insignificant risk will I take for my own growth? This could be expressing an opinion, asking a difficult question, or trying a new route home. This is how you make consistent deposits into your own soul, ensuring that your emotional well-being is not dependent on external dividends. As those savings accrue, as your self-worth becomes internally funded, you will find you have a new capacity. You can afford neutrality. This is Rule 7. Neutrality is not coldness or indifference. It is a steady 36 degrees Celsius, the temperature of a healthy, regulated body, not ice and not fire. It is emotional sovereignty. The tension here comes from emotional flooding, that overwhelming wave of hurt and panic when your child tries to guilt trip you, dismisses your feelings, or criticizes your life choices. In those moments, you need verbal judo lines that protect your peace without escalating conflict. The goal is to create psychic distance between their emotional state and yours. For instance, a simple acknowledgement that validates their right to speak without agreeing to their accusation. I hear you expressing frustration. Or to establish a boundary of thought when they offer unsolicited criticism, you can calmly say, that's one perspective I'll consider. This does not concede your own position or invite a debate. And when you need time to process before reacting, the most powerful line is, I'll reflect on this and come back to you when I've had time to think. These are not scripts for manipulation. They are tools for self-regulation and maintaining your equilibrium under pressure. Every time you successfully use a neutral reply, every time you choose self-regulation over reactive pleading, you score a micro-win. Rule 8 is to celebrate these micro-individuation wins. If you wait for your child's applause or acknowledgement to validate your growth, you are still dancing for the old jury. You are still seeking external validation for an internal process that is entirely yours. Your brain is wired to crave that external dopamine hit from a positive interaction with your child. The shift required here is to build an internal reward system that is more potent and reliable. Your metrics for success must become purely internal. Did I sleep through the night without checking my phone? Did I laugh at a podcast for my own amusement? Did I choose a walk and focused breathwork over a spiral of worry? These are your real victories. Start a sovereignty journal where you track these internal successes. Share them with a trusted non-family friend or your therapist, but critically, do not report them to your child. You must deliberately separate the source of your validation from their approval. When you internalize the reward, you become the sovereign of your own psychological landscape. Enough of these micro-wins, collected day after day, begin to weld together. They form a strong, resilient structure, the self. And with that psychological strength, you arrive at Rule 9, which is to close the gate gently. This is the final shift of sovereignty. Closing the gate is not a lockout or severing the relationship. It is soundproofing. Love can still travel freely in and out, but petty drama, emotional manipulation, and the psychic noise of expectation simply bounce off the fortified walls of your self-respect. The fear, of course, is that a gate is a final, cruel cutoff. But this is a psychological gate, not a physical one. It is a ritual of sovereignty, marking the point where you declare your independence from the need for their confirmation. The payoff is a simple, powerful act of internal declaration. Write one sentence on a piece of paper that begins, "From now on, I." Be decisive and specific. Examples include, "From now on, I will speak my truth without apology." Or, "From now on, my worth is not up for debate and is derived from my own actions." Or, "From now on, I will invest my time and energy into the pursuits I abandoned." Place that paper in an envelope, seal it, and keep it in a safe place. Do not send it. This symbolic act anchors your newfound self-respect directly into your nervous system. It tells the deepest part of your psyche, the shadow and the inner child, that you are finally home and you are taking over the caretaking role. This is the moment the parent fully becomes the individual. So let us summarize this journey of individuation. 9 psychological shifts, 1 unifying path. It is the path from outward petition to inward completion. It is the journey that Carl Jung mapped out, not for our children, but for ourselves. The begging ends when the inner building begins. Tonight, when you feel that reflexive urge to check your phone, to look for the blue ticks that never lead to a reply, remember this: that silence does not have to echo in an empty room. It can echo in a room you have finally started furnishing for yourself, a room filled with your own potential and purpose. Your child's distance is not the final verdict on your life. It is a reminder, a sharp signal, that the life you still must live is knocking persistently from the inside. Your child may never call with the frequency you desire. They may never offer the exact words of appreciation you feel you deserve. But the moment you stop begging, the moment you close that psychic debt ledger and stand fully within your own sovereignty, you will start hearing something else, something that has been there all along. Your own pulse, your own quiet, insistent voice. Proof that you are still here, alive, and worthy of your own unwavering love and respect. This is your work now, not to change them, but to finally, fully complete yourself.